There is something profoundly intentional about the fact that you are still here. After all the years, after all the seasons that have come and gone, after every storm you thought might take you out, you are still breathing, still standing, still present in this moment. And I want you to understand this with absolute clarity. God does not sustain life without purpose. He does not preserve you by accident. Every morning you awaken is not routine, it is divine permission to continue something that heaven has not yet finished. You may look back over your life and remember moments when you felt close to giving up. Times when the weight was too heavy, when the pain was too deep, when the losses seemed unbearable. And yet somehow you made it through. Not by your own strength alone, but by a grace that carried you when you could not carry yourself. That was not luck. That was not coincidence. That was the hand of God keeping you, shielding you, sustaining you, because your story was never meant to end in those moments. And now here you are beyond 60, still alive. The world may try to tell you that this is a time to slow down, to fade into the background, to quietly step aside. But heaven is saying something entirely different. Heaven is saying you are still here because there is more purpose, more impact, more to give, more to fulfill. You see, God is not limited by time the way we are. He is not bound by age. He does not look at your years and say it's over. No, he looks at your life and sees what is still unfolding. And what is still unfolding matters deeply. There are things that only you can do, words that only you can speak, lives that only you can touch because of the journey you have walked. Every breath in your body is evidence that your assignment is not complete. Every heartbeat is a reminder that something divine is still in motion within you. You are not here just to exist. You are here to fulfill something that was written before you were ever born. And if it has not yet been fulfilled, then God in His faithfulness will continue to sustain you until it is. Do not dismiss your presence on this earth as something ordinary. Do not reduce your survival to mere chance. You were kept, you were preserved. You were carried through things that should have broken you, ended you, silenced you, but they did not. And the reason they did not is because purpose was still calling your name. There is a reason you outlived certain battles. A reason you walked away from situations that others did not survive. A reason you are still able to speak, to think, to feel, to believe. And that reason is deeply connected to something greater than yourself, something eternal, something that reaches beyond this life and into the lives of others. God does not waste years. He does not waste lives, and He has not wasted yours. Even now, in this very moment, He is holding you in existence for a purpose that still matters, a purpose that still has power, a purpose that still has the ability to change lives, to shift atmospheres, to bring light where there has been darkness. So do not question why you are still here. Recognize that you are still here because heaven has not said finished over your life. And now, in this sacred season of your life, something begins to shift within you. It is quieter than the noise of the world, yet more powerful than anything you have ever known. The Holy Spirit begins to reveal what was once hidden. There are things you did not understand before, moments you questioned, paths that made no sense, doors that closed without explanation. But now there is a clarity that gently unfolds, like light breaking through the darkness. You begin to see that what once felt confusing was never without purpose. The Holy Spirit has a way of bringing understanding at the right time, not always when we demand it, but when we are ready to receive it. And at this stage of your life, there is a readiness in your spirit that was not there before. You have lived enough to recognize His voice more clearly. You have walked through enough to discern what truly matters. There were years when you may have relied on your own understanding, trying to make sense of everything with logic, with effort, with control. But now there is a surrender, a gentle yielding. And in that surrender, the Holy Spirit begins to speak, not in confusion, not in chaos, but in peace, in knowing, in quiet assurance. You may find yourself remembering things you had long forgotten. Moments that once seemed small or insignificant now carry meaning. Encounters, conversations, decisions, they begin to connect in ways you could not see before. This is not your imagination. This is revelation. This is the Holy Spirit unveiling the deeper truth behind your journey. And oh, how beautiful it is when He reveals. Because when the Holy Spirit reveals something, it is not just information, it is transformation. It changes how you see your past, it changes how you understand your present, and it begins to shape how you step into your future. There may be things He shows you about yourself, gifts you overlooked, strengths you underestimated, callings you quietly carried but never fully embraced. And as He reveals these things, there is no condemnation, only invitation. An invitation to step into what has always been there, waiting for this moment. You begin to realize that nothing was wasted. Not the pain, not the waiting, not the unanswered questions. The Holy Spirit has been present through it all, even when you did not recognize him. And now he is drawing back the curtain, allowing you to see what heaven has been doing behind the scenes all along. There is also a deepening sensitivity that comes in this season. You begin to sense his leading more clearly, a gentle nudge, a quiet prompting, a knowing in your spirit that guides you without force. This is not something to fear, it is something to trust. Because the Holy Spirit does not lead you into confusion, he leads you into truth. And sometimes the revelation is not loud or dramatic. Sometimes it comes in stillness, in reflection. In those quiet moments when you are alone and suddenly something becomes clear, a peace settles, a question is answered without words, and you know it is him. This is the beauty of this stage of life. There is less striving and more seeing, less noise and more understanding, less rushing and more revelation. And what the Holy Spirit is revealing to you now is not random, it is directly connected to your purpose. It is preparation for what still lies ahead. So do not ignore these moments of clarity. Do not brush aside the quiet voice within you. Lean into it. Listen closely. Because the same Spirit who has carried you all these years is now revealing the very things you need to fulfill what remains. And when he reveals, it is because the time has come to walk in what you now see. And as that revelation begins to settle gently into your spirit, something else becomes clear. Your past was never a collection of random moments. It was preparation. Every step you have taken, every season you have endured, has been shaping you for something far greater than you realized at the time. There were days you thought you were losing ground, when it felt like life was taking more from you than it was giving. Times when you questioned the purpose of your struggles, when the delays felt endless, when the disappointments seemed too heavy to carry. But now, through the lens of the Spirit, you begin to see differently. What you once called setbacks were actually setups. What you once saw as loss was in many ways a form of preparation. God does not waste experiences. He does not allow pain without purpose. Even the moments that felt broken, even the chapters you wish had been written differently, have been used to shape something within you that could not have been formed any other way. There are depths in you now, wisdom, compassion, strength, that only came because you walked through those valleys. Think of the things you have survived, the battles no one else fully understands, the nights when you carried burdens silently, the decisions you had to make when there was no clear answer. All of it was doing something within you. It was building endurance. It was refining your character. It was preparing you to stand in a place of authority, not worldly authority, but spiritual authority that comes from having lived, endured, and remained. And even your mistakes, yes, even those. The times you wish you could go back and change, the choices that brought consequences, the moments you felt you fell short, those too have been woven into the fabric of your preparation. Because when surrendered to God, nothing is wasted. He has a way of taking what was meant for harm, what was born out of weakness, and transforming it into something that carries wisdom and understanding. You see, there is a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge can be taught, but wisdom is lived, and you have lived. You have walked through seasons that have given you insight that cannot be learned from books or borrowed from others, and now that wisdom has purpose. The Holy Spirit begins to connect the pieces. You start to understand why certain things had to happen the way they did, why certain doors closed, why certain paths were difficult. It was not to stop you, it was to shape you, to prepare you for a moment like this, where what you carry within you has the power to impact others in a way that only lived experience can. There are people who will hear your story and find hope. There are lives that will be touched because you understand pain, because you understand perseverance, because you understand what it means to keep going when it would have been easier to give up. That understanding did not come cheaply. It was formed over years, and now it carries purpose. Do not look back with regret. Do not allow yourself to believe that time was lost or that your journey was in vain. Even the waiting seasons, even the quiet years when it felt like nothing was happening, something was happening. Deep within, God was working, shaping, preparing. And now, you are not the same person you once were. You see differently. You respond differently. You understand differently. That is not by accident. That is the result of a life that has been in the hands of a faithful God. So when you look at your past now, do not see it as something to be forgotten or dismissed. See it as preparation. See it as the foundation upon which your purpose now stands. Because everything you have been through has brought you to this moment, ready, equipped, and prepared for what comes next. And because of all that has been formed within you, because of every lesson, every refinement, every quiet work of the Spirit in your life, there comes a calling that cannot be ignored. It is not loud in the way the world understands loudness, but it is unmistakable. You begin to sense that what you carry is not just for you, it is for others. There is a generation behind you that is searching for direction, for truth, for something steady in a world that often feels uncertain and unstable. And whether you have realized it or not, you have become a vessel of the very thing they are looking for. Not because you are perfect, but because you have walked the road, you have endured. You have learned what truly matters. God has placed something within you that goes beyond personal fulfillment. There is a responsibility, a sacred invitation to guide, to speak, to pour into the lives of others. You may not stand on a stage, you may not have a title, but influence was never dependent on position. It flows from presence, from authenticity, from a life that reflects something real. There are people who will cross your path who need exactly what you carry. A word of encouragement that comes from experience, not theory. A moment of listening that brings comfort. A piece of wisdom that shifts their direction. These are not small things. These are divine moments orchestrated by God where your life becomes a bridge for someone else. And sometimes you may feel hesitant. You may think, what do I have to offer? But the very question reveals how unaware you may be of the depth within you. You have more to give than you realize. The Holy Spirit has been preparing you, not just for your own understanding, but so that what you have received can flow outward. There is also a legacy being formed, not one written in material things, but one written in lives. The impact you make now can extend far beyond what you will ever see with your natural eyes. A word you speak today can echo in someone's life for years. A truth you share can shape decisions, restore hope, even change the course of a life. This is the beauty of this calling. It is not about striving or proving, it is about yielding. Allowing what God has placed within you to be expressed in simple, genuine ways. Sometimes it will be in conversations. Sometimes in quiet acts of kindness. Sometimes in moments where you simply show up and bring peace into a space that needed it. And do not underestimate the power of your presence. There is something about a life that has been tested and sustained by God. It carries a weight, a depth, a peace that cannot be manufactured. Others can feel it even if they cannot explain it. That is influence. That is impact. You are not being called to become someone else. You are being called to be fully who you have become through every season you have walked. To speak from that place. To live from that place. To give from that place. There may be opportunities you did not expect. Moments where you are drawn into someone's situation, where your insight becomes guidance, where your experience becomes a source of strength for another. Do not pull back in those moments. Do not silence what the Spirit is prompting you to share. Because what you carry is not accidental. It has been formed intentionally, over time through a life that has been in the hands of God. And now it is meant to be released. You are a living testimony, a vessel of wisdom, a source of light for those who are still finding their way. And someone somewhere is waiting for the very truth that only you can give. And yet, even with all that has been revealed, all that has been prepared, there can still linger a quiet thought in the heart. Is it too late? The world has a way of planting that question, of measuring worth by youth, of suggesting that the most meaningful chapters of life are behind you, but that is not the language of heaven. That is not the voice of the Spirit. Because with God, purpose does not expire, and calling does not diminish with age. In fact, there is something deeply powerful about this very moment in your life. You are not who you were decades ago. You are not walking in uncertainty the same way. There is a steadiness now, a depth, a clarity that only time and experience can produce. And it is from this place, not from youth, not from striving, but from maturity, that some of the most significant things can be released through you. You must understand this. It is not too late. It has never been too late. As long as there is breath in your body, there is still something God intends to do through you. And sometimes the greatest assignments are not given at the beginning, they are entrusted at the point where the vessel has been fully prepared. There are things you could not have carried earlier in life. The weight of them would have been too much. The understanding required was not yet formed. But now you are different. You have been shaped, refined, strengthened, and because of that you are able to step into something with a readiness that did not exist before. Do not allow yourself to shrink back because of numbers, because of timelines, because of what others may expect at this stage. God is not confined to human expectations. He is not looking at a calendar to determine your usefulness. He is looking at your heart, your willingness, your openness to say yes even now. There is still creativity within you. There are still ideas waiting to be expressed. There are still steps to be taken, still words to be spoken, still lives to be touched. And sometimes the hesitation comes not from inability, but from doubt, from the belief that the opportunity has passed. But I tell you, if it were over, you would not still feel the stirring within you. That stirring is not accidental. It is the Spirit of God gently reminding you that there is more. More to do, more to give, more to fulfill. And it may not look like what you once imagined. It may be quieter, more focused, more intentional, but do not mistake quiet for small. What is done in this season can carry an eternal weight. You may take steps that feel simple, almost insignificant, but when those steps are led by the Spirit, they are never small. A conversation, a decision, an act of obedience, these can open doors you never expected. And through those doors, purpose begins to unfold in ways that only God could orchestrate. There is also a freedom in this season. A freedom from proving, from striving, from chasing things that once seemed important but no longer hold the same value. And in that freedom you are able to move with a purity of intention, guided not by pressure but by purpose. So do not hold back. Do not convince yourself that your time has passed. This moment, right now, carries potential. Not because of what the world says, but because of what God is still doing within you. And when you choose to respond, to step forward, to trust, to act on what the Spirit is placing in your heart, you will begin to see that this season is not a closing chapter, but a powerful continuation. Because sometimes what God saves for later is not lesser, it is greater. And so after all that has been revealed, after all that has been understood, everything now comes to a quiet but powerful place of decision. Because revelation alone is not enough. Understanding, as beautiful as it is, must lead to response. And that response is found in one simple sacred word: obedience. The Holy Spirit does not reveal without intention. He does not uncover truth merely for reflection, but for activation. What He has been showing you, what He has been stirring within you, is meant to be lived. And the doorway into that life is not found in striving or effort, but in a willing heart that says yes. Obedience is not always loud. It is often found in the smallest moments, in the quiet decisions no one else sees. It may be a prompting to speak when you would rather remain silent, a nudge to step forward when you feel uncertain, a gentle leading to let go of something you have held on to for too long. These moments may seem simple, but they carry divine significance. You see, the Holy Spirit leads with precision. He knows exactly where you are, exactly what you carry, and exactly what is needed next. He does not overwhelm you with the entire journey at once. Instead, He gives you the next step, and in that step, there is grace, there is provision, there is direction. But obedience requires trust. It requires you to move even when you do not have all the answers, to follow even when the path is not fully visible. And this is where many hesitate. Not because they do not believe, but because they are waiting for certainty. Yet the Spirit does not always provide certainty. He provides assurance. A quiet knowing that He is with you, that He is guiding you, that you are not stepping into the unknown alone. And when you begin to obey, something begins to unlock. Not all at once, but progressively. One step leads to another. One act of obedience opens the door to the next. And before you realize it, you are walking in something that once felt distant, something that once felt beyond reach. There is also a deep peace that comes with obedience. Not the absence of challenge, but the presence of alignment. A knowing that you are where you are meant to be, doing what you are meant to do. And that peace cannot be manufactured. It is the result of walking in step with the Spirit. At times, obedience may stretch you. It may take you beyond what feels comfortable, beyond what feels familiar. But understand this, anything the Holy Spirit leads you into, He also equips you for. You are not being asked to rely on your own strength. You are being invited to depend on His. And do not fear making mistakes along the way. The heart that is willing to obey is a heart that is being led. Even when you do not get everything perfect, the Spirit is faithful to guide, to correct, to realign. This journey is not about flawless performance, it is about faithful response. What matters is your willingness, your openness, your readiness to listen and to move when He speaks. Because your final mission, the very purpose for which you have been sustained, is not something you must force into existence. It is something that unfolds as you walk in obedience. Every step you take in alignment with the Holy Spirit carries eternal significance. It touches lives, shifts atmospheres, and fulfills something far greater than what you can see in the moment. And in the end, it is not how much you knew, but how faithfully you followed what was revealed to you. So listen and obey.